One whose name is called upon. The fruit of the righteous is the tree of life, and the one who is wise saves lives. Proverbs 11:30. One day, I got an email from my son. It said that people around him incessantly call his name. According to him, they call him when they need to move, clean, or when they face an urgent and tough situation. They also call him when they have something delicious to eat, when they're playing sports, and when there's a joyful occasion to celebrate. I felt content and happy as I read his email because the things I had hoped for him were actually happening. It was long ago, 24 years ago. On that day, we were visiting someone's house. With us were some elders, a nurse, and a pastor. My second son was resting on my lap, suffering from a fever due to a cold. All of a sudden, my baby rolled his eyes back to the point where only the whites of his eyes could be seen, and he began to converse. It was because of a high fever. That moment, I completely lost myself. I had never been more shocked and startled, even more so since I had never seen such a scene in my life. My mind went blank. I couldn't think of anything. All I could think of was one person among many gathered at the place, the pastor, who was having a conversation in another room. I screamed out, "Pastor! Pastor!" Startled, the pastor rushed to see what had happened. He took my baby and had him lie down in a comfortable position. In less than 1 minute, my son recovered consciousness. When I returned home, I looked back on that moment. I could have called my husband or the nurse. I found it odd as to why I called the pastor for help instead. I realized that the pastor came up in my mind first as a helper because I considered him to be a very important person. I had called him not because he was a pushover, but because I considered my relationship with him important. I understood then how much of a blessing it is to have one's name called in the event of an emergency or difficulty. It has been nearly 20 years since my husband and I developed and nurtured our church. And our church members called us when they were in an emergency, pain, sorrow, or struggle. They would call our names at any time, sometimes in the middle of the night or in the middle of our mealtime. They also called us for joyful events. They invited us to happy and delightful occasions as well. Some of them lose contact with us, and then, after a while, once again call our names when they face a difficult situation. My husband and I felt as though we were God's emergency rescuers, and we unhesitatingly run to provide help whenever our names are called. Indeed, we experienced pain, were bothered, and were at times weary and tired, but there were also rewarding and satisfying moments. To be honest, at times we are tempted to refuse or avoid the calls. However, we both consider it a privilege and are grateful even to have our names called for help. It's because I know well that no one will call upon my name anymore when I'm old and sick. By then, probably, God will call my name and put me to sleep. I hope my son understands that the times of having his name called upon are the best moments in his life. I pray that he will begin to see such moments as precious opportunities given by the Lord, and that he lives a life of wearing out instead of rusting out.